Hey there, we are back reading The Black Pearl by Scott Odell. Yesterday in chapter 15, we read that the Sevillano and Ramon were out on the sea and getting attacked by the manta, and so they decided to go to the island of the dead, which is the island de los Muertos. And when they got there, they were not greeted happily by the natives there. As a matter of fact, they were throwing arrows and spears at them, and so then Ramon and the Sevillano decided to leave the island. So here is chapter 16. At sunrise, the island of Los Muertos lay behind us. The air was heavy and scarcely a ripple showed on the sea. Over and around us hung a thin red mist, but I did not locate the Monte Diablo until more than an hour had passed. It was then that a needlefish, longer than my arm, skimmed the water and flew by me like a bullet. I heard the chattering of its green teeth, and as I turned around to see what could ever have frightened a fish that is noted for its courage, the water heaved up half a furlong behind the boat. From the hillock rose the manta. Through a shower of foam, he rose high into the air, higher than I had ever seen one leap before, so high that I could see the flash of his white undersides and his long tail whipping about. There he seemed to rest for a moment or two, as if to survey all that lay about him. Then down he came and struck the water with a thunderous blow. "Your friend shows off," said the Sevillano. He spoke calmly, and I looked at him, wondering that even now he did not know that it was the Monte Diablo who had leaped into the air and why he had done so. The Sevillano took the pearl from between his feet and wedged it behind the jug of water in the stern of the boat, and then he picked up the harpoon. "I have killed 9 mantas," he said. "They are much easier to kill than whales of the same size, because they lack the blubber of the whale. They are easier to kill than the thresher shark, or the 6-gill, or the 7-gill shark, or the tiger shark, or the big gray one." The Monte Diablo sank from view. It was nearly noon before I saw him again. A light wind came up and ruffled the sea, and it might have been that he swam there close behind us all the time the Sevillano was telling me how simple it was to kill a manta, and where he had killed the 9. I first saw the outstretched wings, and then he passed the boat, and I saw the amber eyes turn and look at me as they had once before. They said as clearly as the words were spoken, "The pearl is mine. Throw it into the sea. It has brought you ill fortune, and ill fortune will be yours until you give it back." I must have muttered something at this moment that betrayed my fear, for the Sevillano squinted his eyes and studied me. He was certain at last that he had a child or a crazy man to deal with. The Monte Diablo swam by just out of range of the harpoon. Majestically, he swam on ahead of us and came slowly back in a wide circle. The Sevillano waited for him with his feet spread apart and one leg braced against the tiller and the heavy harpoon in his hand. The pearl lay beyond my reach. I would need to crawl the length of the boat to get at it. Any movement I made now, he would see. So I decided to wait until the Monte Diablo drew closer, and the Sevillano would have his mind fixed upon him. Again, the Sevillano looked at me. "I am beginning to understand a few things," he said in his soft voice, patiently, as if he were talking to a child or someone bereft. "You stole the pearl from the Madonna because she failed to protect the fleet of your father. You traveled all night to the lagoon where you had found the pearl, and you went there to give it back to the Monte Diablo. Is this right?" I did not answer him. Well, he said, let me tell you something. It is news that you do not know, that no one knows, except Gaspar Ruiz. He was silent for a moment, watching the Mente Diablo. But for one small matter, at this very hour, the fleet might be sailing under these same skies or riding safely at anchor into the harbor of La Paz, and your father might be sitting down at his patio to a feast of roast pig and good wine from Jerez. Anger seized me. I sat quietly and did not move, but the Sevillanos saw this anger in my face. Calm yourself, he said, for I only wish to tell you why the fleet was wrecked upon the rocks of Punta Maldonado. A better one never sailed the Vermilion. Your father was a fine captain. Yet ships and men and your father all went down in a storm, no worse than others that they had lived through. Why, you ask? I ask nothing, I said. Oh, but I will tell you, mate, because it may take me some time to get rid of the manta. While I am busy and not keeping a watchful eye, you might get some crazy idea. You might take the pearl and throw it overboard. Then I would have to slit your throat. That would be a shame, for the manta did not cause your father's death. The Mente Diablo was still a good distance away and seemed in no hurry to overtake us, idly lifting and lowering his beautiful dark fins. But the Sevillano fastened one end of the harpoon rope and coiled the rest in a neat pile at his feet. When the storm was gathering, he said, when the whole southern sky was filled with fearsome clouds, I told your father that we should turn back and seek shelter at Las Animas. He laughed at me. The wind, he said, was with us, and we could reach the port before the storm struck. It was a bad decision he made, and he made it because of the pearl, because of his gift to the Madonna. Not that he ever spoke of the pearl. Oh, no, not once did he mention it while we stood and argued, and the wind blew and the clouds banked higher. But all the time, the black pearl was there in his mind. I could tell it was there, big and important. I could tell by the way that he spoke. The Sevillano paused and raised his chin, striking a pose to show how my father had looked. It reminded me of the moment in the parlor when he had given the pearl to Father Gallardo, and afterwards when he told my mother that the house of Salazar would be favored in heaven, now and forever. I could tell, the Sevillano went on, by the way he spoke, so sure about the storm and everything, that he felt and he knew that God had a hold of his hand. The Sevillano ran a finger over the iron barb of the harpoon and sighted along the shaft and made a few practice thrusts into the air. While he was doing these things, he said, if you had the choice to make over again, would you actually steal the pearl from the Madonna? I hesitated to answer him, confused as I was by what I had just heard by his question. Before I could speak, he said, no, Ramon Salazar would not steal the pearl. Of course not, now that he knows why the fleet was wrecked, nor would he steal the pearl from his good pal, Gaspar Ruiz. The Sevillano waited for me to answer, but I was silent. I sat in the bow of the boat and watched the Mente Diablo swimming effortlessly along behind us. Already I had decided that what I would do if he killed the Mente Diablo or if he failed. Whether it was one or the other, I now saw clearly how I must act, and that this I would not tell him. That is the end of chapter 16. We'll find out if they kill the manta or what happens in 17 tomorrow. Actually, yeah. Have a great day.